Big news was released this week. It's going to have an impact on virtual tours for real estate listings, as well as listing sites like Zillow.com, Redfin, and others. It's also going to have an impact because of ripple effects that are going to inevitably start filtering into some of the photo mills that, as a real estate photographer, you may be competing against. And what I'm going to do in this episode is I'm going to cover 3 of the primary impacts this is going to have, because what's happening right now and things you should be preparing for as well is this news that came out of CoStar this last week that they acquired Matterport. That's right, Matterport has been sold. And if you're not familiar with CoStar and who they are, they're the ones that own Homes.com and Apartments.com. Through this acquisition, that means that CoStar will be the owner of Matterport and also the Matterport services offerings that they've recently acquired, like VHT Studios and also Enview. But it's not just about virtual tours. It's not just about Matterport itself. It's about what's happening with CoStar, Homes.com, and some of the play that they've been making behind the scenes and what that's really going to do as an effect. Because when it comes to virtual tours, that's really the tip of the iceberg. The acquisition by CoStar to buy up Matterport really wasn't that big of a deal because Matterport has been struggling. Their stock has sunk since 2022. They really haven't been doing well. Now, they blame a lot of that on the market. I can understand that, but as something that I'm going to also be discussing as we go through these different things that are happening right now in this episode, we'll also see that the popularity is waning for these 360 virtual tours. That puts both companies, when we're talking about CoStar and Matterport and also their competitors, into a precarious position of what to do next and what they could do to vie or fail when it comes to then getting other type of work for their real estate listing sites. The first thing is that CoStar has not been secretive at all over the fact that they want to completely upend Zillow. They've made that publicly known that they want to come in and completely wipe out Zillow if they can. And so what they've been trying to do is to try to acquire other sites. They've been trying to go after the competitors, like in the UK, going after Rightmove. They also made a play, it was recently in 2023 for Realtor.com. That didn't go through, but they were able to buy up Matterport, which really isn't at their core competency. And I'll touch on that again here in just a minute, but their core competency with CoStar and everything that they do isn't in making virtual tours. Yes, they've had photographers and some media as well, but they're not really a technology company. If we take a look though at this whole idea though, backing up here to this mission statement that CoStar has of trying to upend Zillow.com, there's a drastic difference when we talk about the traffic. If we take a look at Zillow in March 2024, we can see that they've had about 90% more traffic, about 386 million visitors on Zillow in March 2024 compared to Homes.com, owned by CoStar, which had just 40 million visitors. So that's only about 10% Homes.com compared to Zillow. So to say that they're going to upend Zillow, they've got a long road to hoe to make that happen, which puts them in a very dangerous situation to actually publicly make this known. Not that you're letting your enemies know your next move, it's that they're also making promises to their investors that they might not be able to keep. So if CoStar overplays their hand with this, not just the acquisition of Matterport, but also trying to upend Zillow and everything that they're doing. If that doesn't work out, then things will definitely fall on the chopping block. They will have to cut some dead weight. And one of the first things they could cut, being dead weight, is their least profitable acquisitions that they'll cut their losses on. And one of the least profitable things that they just recently bought, that was Matterport. The second thing, though, is that since CoStar is so anti-Zillow, and now that they own Matterport, it would not be in CoStar's interest whatsoever to share that technology with other listing sites. So it wouldn't be in the interest of Zillow either to definitely benefit a competitor like CoStar who wants to completely upend them. So it would be in Zillow's best interest to put Matterport listings at the very bottom. There's no need for them to put them at the top, and why would they? Zillow already has 3D Home, and they've been promoting that, and not so much Matterport, over the last year or so. But more telling is that Zillow, which is known for acquiring just about everything out there because they're the 800-pound gorilla in the marketplace, they didn't make a play for Matterport. Could they see that maybe Matterport was a poisoned pond? Did they see that it really wasn't worth it? Well, obviously they saw that it wasn't worth it, and that's why they made their own 3D home. But both of these platforms, CoStar and Zillow, they're both in a precarious situation because the 3D tours, these 360-degree virtual tours, they're vulnerable right now. It's something that I talked about in a recent episode, another video, and I'll have a link to this down in the description of this video, is that when I talked about this here some while back, the virtual tours are losing popularity because of the Instagram effect. So property videos have been becoming more front and center as a service add-on because simply you can't share a 3D tour on Instagram. It's made for videos and photos. Sure, on Facebook you could share a link to a 360 tour. That might help. And sure, an MLS listing, which isn't viewed by nearly as many people as the bigger listing sites. You could put your link to your virtual tour there, but it's not going to get the eyeball, so it's not going to have the same impact as when, which is also some research here by the National Association of Realtors in 2023, not going to be as useful as it would be on Instagram, which is where most realtors are starting to put a lot of their advertisement to start interacting with their clients. So photos and yes, some selfies, things like that, but video is becoming king. 360 virtual tours are not. They are losing their popularity overall, and although there will still be the holdouts that this formula has worked for me, I'll always buy Matterport tours, those days are coming to an end, and it's obvious by the stock price that Matterport had and also then the recent acquisition by CoStar of Matterport to get them out of the hole that they've been digging themselves into. And the third effect on this is the photo mills. And you might think at first hand, well, how does Matterport's acquisition by CoStar have any effect on the photo mills? It's because both CoStar and Zillow have gone this route of trying to hire their own photographers to become their own photo mills, and it really hasn't worked out that well for Zillow. You might recall that Zillow had acquired VRX Media, and that doesn't seem to have moved the needle at all. In fact, Zillow reversed course on this whole idea of having just their own photographers. You might remember they nixed their certified photographer program here a couple years ago. But recently here, 2023, 2024, they opened up the door so that in their ShowingTime Plus platform, another one of their many acquisitions, they're allowing the agents to use any photographer they want. They realize the value that these other photographers, us independent real estate photographers, bring to the table, not so much the photo mills. But more so is that as a company, if I were a CoStar or I'm Zillow, my main revenue stream is not by doing photography. It's from doing the agents. So when you're attracting agents, you're giving them data, you're getting them listings. There's a lot more money on the table than just getting a piece of the pie of a couple hundred, few $100s off of a photo shoot compared to thousands of dollars that you could get from agents. So that really isn't in the best business interest of CoStar or Zillow to have photographers anyways. So with them seeing now how Zillow is the trendsetter and opening up the doors once again for independent photographers, CoStar probably will as well, I would imagine. And of course, then that means that the photo mills won't be favored. In fact, the independent photographers will be favored then by the big leaders out there, which is CoStar and Zillow, because both of those big companies want independent photographers to use their 3D tour platforms. CoStar, it's going to be Matterport, and in Zillow, it's going to be the 3D home. Which leads us to what do we do next? So while these two leviathans start battling it out, it's really great for real estate photographers because one, unless you've made a big investment in Matterport equipment, it really doesn't affect you. In fact, it benefits you because, once again, the photo mills that would be owned by the giants in the industry out there, like Zillow, that's coming to an end. That's starting to wane. We already see that happening. That's really good news. Other photo mills, well, they're not going to be favored any better than independent photographers when it comes to getting on these bigger listing sites. But if you do own Matterport equipment now, or you're thinking about buying it, I would think twice about that. Right now, it seems that CoStar has done nothing but buy a poison pond of a dying sector of our industry that doesn't seem to be going anywhere, and that's why Matterport was faltering so much. And CoStar isn't some magical technology company that knows how to do this 360 immersive world and make it better. They're just a data source, really, of just listings. All the sites that they have, homes.com, apartments.com, that stuff is all about listings. Even for their commercial work that they have, it's about listings and also providing data to help agents. So they really don't have anything to really help Matterport. So Matterport's acquisition by CoStar, I don't see that really doing it any favor. So I would stay clear right now of that. The biggest thing though overall is if you were going to be offering a service and you were debating between should I provide the 3D virtual tours or should I provide property videos? Property videos is something that I would definitely concentrate on more than the 3D tours. Once again, that Instagram effect and making reels, that's real big, but just overall, because of that video popularity, there's a lot of other avenues that you can do for doing just standard listing property videos. But the biggest thing that really comes out of this is that there is a strong need right now for really good real estate photographers. So Zillow, and I'm sure CoStar very soon, have learned the lesson that if you want good photography, you don't hire cheap photographers. Realtors know this, and that's why they complained to Zillow, and that's why Zillow started opening up the doors in ShowingTime Plus to allow these agents to start using their own photographers who do a better job than the underpaid photographers that were forced to run around like crazy and had no choice but to deliver poorer quality work. And as you may know, this is something I can help you with. I've got online courses to learn professional real estate photography, including shooting interiors, also doing expert editing, and also exterior photography, and also videography for real estate. I've also written best-selling books on real estate photography, and I have links to all that down in the description for this video. And yes, I mentioned that to pitch my works and my books and my courses and all that, but the key takeaway point here is that if you want to stay above the competition, no matter how the winds of change may blow through the acquisitions of CoStar or what Zillow does next, is to be good. To be very, very good. And once again, you will survive, just as we've seen what's happened with ShowingTime Plus, and also the way that Matterport's going down and what's going to happen eventually with CoStar. What stands out the most is good quality photographers. They don't come from either one of those companies. They come from the agents that hire their own independent ones like yourself. Stay on top of it. I'm going to stay on top of this news, and I will keep you posted.